Spain has a problem. It has too much history and not enough time to tell it. Civilizations piled on top of civilizations: Romans, Visigoths, Moors, Christians, each one leaving something behind before the next arrived to build over it. And what they left, more often than not, was stone. Castles, hundreds of them, scattered across high plains, salt mountains, olive groves, and river cliffs. Some are ruins. Some became hotels. Some are still trying to decide what they are. This is not a country that keeps its past behind glass. It keeps it above you on the hillside, on the ridge, on the horizon, impossible to ignore, impossible to fully understand. Today, we step inside 5 of them. 5 fortresses, 5 different corners of the same ancient land, 5 different answers to the question every civilization eventually asks itself: what do we leave behind? You do not need to have been here before. You do not need to know the history. You only need to show up. The castles will do the rest. Let's begin. 1. Coca Castle. Most medieval castles were built to look unconquerable. The Coca Castle was built to look impossible, and it succeeded. Rising from the flat plains of Segovia province, 31 miles northwest of the city of Segovia, it does not sit on a hill, it does not dominate a ridge. It stands on flat terrain surrounded by a broad, deep, dry moat, and yet from the moment it appears through the pine trees, something in the eye refuses to believe it is real. Construction began in 1448 by Don Alonso de Fonseca, Bishop of Avila and Archbishop of Seville, on the site of ancient Cauca, the birthplace of the Roman Emperor Theodosius. 2,000 years of human ambition compressed into a single piece of ground. In a region where stone was abundant, the decision to build almost entirely in brick was a deliberate stylistic choice, allowing a level of decorative detail impossible with granite. The bricks are used not just for structure, but for ornamentation, arranged in varying patterns to create friezes, arches, and geometric motifs. Moorish craftsmen built a Christian archbishop's fortress using Islamic design. The result looks like something between a palace and a fever dream, rose-colored, intricately latticed, shimmering in the Castilian heat. In the 17th century, the castle became a prison for illustrious traitors to the crown, the Duke of Medina Sidonia, the Count of Orgaz, and the Marquises of Govea and Mancera among them. Men of enormous titles, locked inside walls built by an archbishop. Then the French came during the Peninsular War, occupied it, damaged it. Decorative elements, marble columns, carved stonework was sold off during the 18th and 19th centuries, though some were later recovered and restored. The House of Alba owned the castle for centuries before handing it to the Ministry of Agriculture in 1954. After 4 years of restoration, the Forestry Training School opened within its walls in 1958 and remains operational today. Students of forestry management attend class inside a 15th century archbishop's fortress. They eat lunch in its courtyards. They study beneath ceilings that watch Spanish nobility rot in the dungeons below. Legal ownership of the Coca Castle remains with the House of Alba. The Ministry of Agriculture administers it under a cession agreement signed in 1954, reportedly for a period of 100 years minus 1 day, though the exact terms have never been made fully public. A lease on a castle, expiring in 2054. What happens then, nobody has yet said. 2. Cardona Castle. 60 miles northwest of Barcelona, a conical hill rises from the Cardona Valley, and on top of it, visible from the road long before you arrive, sits the Cardona Castle, not growing from the hill. Not perched on it, fused to it, as if the rock and the fortress were always meant to be a single thing. The history of Cardona Castle begins in the year 886, when Wilfrid the Hairy promoted the construction of a fortress to protect the frontier of the county of Osona against the advance of the Moorish south. But the power that made this castle legendary did not come from warfare alone, it came from salt. The adjacent salt mines catapulted the Cardona family into a position of prominence across all of Europe. Eventually controlling around 6% of Catalonia, they became known as the Kings Without Crowns. They had extensive territories in Catalonia, Aragon and Valencia, and dynastic ties with Castile, Portugal, Sicily and Naples. A family that built an empire, not with conquest, but with mineral. White gold from the valley below and a fortress on the hill above to protect it. The castle's most recognizable feature is the Maiden's Tower, an 11th century cylindrical structure standing 15 meters high and 10 meters wide. Its name comes from a local legend. Adelais, daughter of a Viscount of Cardona, fell in love with a Moorish man. Her family imprisoned her in the tower with only a mute servant for company. She died there within the year. The tower still stands. The room at the top still exists. Guests of the hotel sleep a floor below it. The castle's most emblematic episode came during the War of the Spanish Succession. It was the last Catalan stronghold to surrender to the forces of Felipe V, holding out until the 18th of September 1714. Every other fortress had fallen, Cardona alone refused. The date is not forgotten in Catalonia. The Parador Hotel opened within the castle's walls in 1976. Today, guests sleep in vaulted stone rooms, eat beneath Gothic arches, and wait to views stretching to the Pyrenees. Room 712 is reputed to be haunted. During a restoration, a security dog barked non-stop outside it for over a month. The hotel staff mention this with the practiced calm of people who have long since accepted that some things in this building do not follow ordinary rules. Orson Welles filmed parts of Chimes at Midnight here in 1965. The Stones were already old enough to play any century he needed. 3. Sigüenza Castle. 80 miles from Madrid, tucked into a narrow valley on the road between the capital and Aragon, the city of Sigüenza rises from the Castilian plateau almost without warning. And above everything, above the cathedral, above the cobbled streets, above the centuries, the Sigüenza Castle watches from the hill. It has always watched from the hill. The origins of the fortifications go back to the Celtiberians, who inhabited the right bank of the river in the final centuries before Christ. The Visigoths built a small castle in the 5th century above the town. The Moors extended it. Then, in 1123, it was retaken for the Christians by Bernard of Agen, a French-born fighter turned archbishop, who converted a fortress into an episcopal palace and handed it to a succession of bishops who would call it home for the next 7 centuries. This is the Castle of the Bishops. It was used continuously as a bishop's residence for several centuries, reformed profoundly between the 14th and 16th centuries. Kings passed through. The Catholic monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella stayed here. Napoleon's troops occupied it during the French invasion. In 1355, Blanche of Bourbon, a queen, was held prisoner within its walls for 4 years. The castle absorbed everything history threw at it: royal visits, occupations, imprisonments, and sieges. And each time, the bishops came back. Until they didn't. A disastrous fire in the 1830s led to the castle being abandoned. It was further damaged in the Spanish Civil War when Franco's troops used it during the battle for the town. The Battle of Sigüenza lasted from August 7 to the 15th of October 1936. The castle and the cathedral faced each other across the town, one held by each side. Shell damage is still visible on the towers today. A photograph in the hotel reception shows what it looked like when the fighting stopped. The image is not easy to look at. After extensive restoration work, it opened as a parador in 1976. King Juan Carlos and Queen Sofia attended the official inauguration in 1978. Today, 81 rooms occupy the castle's interior, including a 13th century Romanesque chapel and a majestic vaulted dining room. Guests sleep in rooms with wooden balconies overlooking a city that has been fortified, burned, occupied, and rebuilt more times than anyone has bothered to count. The castle has been a Celtiberian stronghold, a Roman citadel, a Moorish fortress, a bishop's palace, a royal residence, a prison, a barracks, an asylum, and a ruin. Now it is a hotel. 15 centuries of human need compressed into a single building on a hill in Castilla-La Mancha. 4. Perelada Castle. The Empordà Plain in northern Catalonia, flat, windswept, vine-covered, pressed between the Pyrenees and the Costa Brava, has been making wine for over 2,500 years. The Greeks planted vines here, the Romans pressed grapes here. And in the middle of all of it, in the small town of Perelada, just 12 miles from the French border, stands the Perelada Castle. A castle that has never once stopped being useful. The castle is mentioned in documents as early as the 9th century. The current structure was built after a fire during the French invasion of 1285, when King Philip III of France burned and looted the original fortress during his crusade against Catalonia, a campaign from which, despite his victory, he would not survive. He died near Perelada during the retreat. The castle that defeated him outlasted him by 7 centuries. The east wing of the castle is fortified with 2 impressive towers at the corners. Adjacent to it stands a Carmelite monastery with one of the few Gothic cloisters surviving in all of Catalonia. The monks who lived within those walls made wine in the cellars for centuries, a quiet monastic industry that quietly outlasted empires. In 1923, Miguel Mateu i Pla acquired the entire monumental complex. Son of the co-founder of Hispano-Suiza Automobiles, Mateu was also mayor of Barcelona and Spanish ambassador to Paris. He arrived at Perelada with money, connections, and an obsession. The library he built within the castle walls now holds over 80,000 volumes, including more than 1,000 different editions of Don Quixote. He restored the wine cellars, he filled the rooms with art, he turned a medieval fortress into one of the most singular private cultural estates in Europe. His successors went further. The family opened the castle's own casino within its walls. Then, in the summer of 1987, they launched the Perelada International Music Festival, dedicated entirely to classical music, which has since become a cultural landmark across Europe. Every summer, opera and symphony fill the castle gardens. Their flagship sparkling wine produced in its cellars was served at the reception banquet for American President Eisenhower's visit to Spain and at the wedding of King Baudouin and Fabiola of Belgium. A 14th century castle, a Gothic cloister, a casino, a music festival, a winery that serves kings, and a library with 80,000 books. The Empordà wind still blows across the plain the way it always has. The vines still grow in the same slate soil. Inside the castle, the family that bought it a century ago is still there, still making wine, still collecting books, still filling the summer nights with music under the medieval towers. 5. Canena Castle. Jaén does not announce itself. It simply unfolds hill after hill, silver and endless, every slope covered in olive trees, so old they no longer remember who planted them. This is not scenery. This is an economy, a civilization, a way of life pressed into every bottle. Nearly half of Spain's entire olive oil production comes from this single province, a fifth of the whole world's. And above the small town of Canena, overlooking all of it, stands a castle that has watched every harvest for over 2 centuries from the same ridge. The stone goes back further than that. Arabs built the first fortress here on the ruins of a Roman settlement. Then in 1538, Francisco de los Cobos, Secretary of State to Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, purchased it and remade it entirely. Not a fortress anymore, a Renaissance palace, elegant galleries, a covered courtyard, the round towers kept, but softened, power dressed in beauty. The emperor himself slept within these walls. That detail alone changes how you look at the stone, knowing that the most powerful man in the world once woke up here, looked out over this same valley, and saw exactly what you see now. The castle was declared a national monument in 1931, and then, for decades, it simply existed. Until 2003, when two siblings, Rosa and Francisco Vañó, senior executives at Coca-Cola and Banco Santander, walked away from their careers and came home. They transformed the family's ancient olive groves into one of Spain's most celebrated premium olive oil brands. Rosa and Francisco still celebrate Christmas here. Both of them got married within these walls. An emperor once slept here. Now a family runs a global business from inside it and still calls it home. The castle did not become a museum, it became something rarer. It became a life. 5 castles, 5 different centuries, 5 different hands that laid the first stone, 5 different reasons to build something that was never meant to fall. And yet, here they all are, still standing, still watched, still inhabited by people who chose to stay inside history rather than walk away from it. Spain does not preserve its past the way other countries do. It does not rope it off or put it behind glass or explain it with a placard and move on. It lives inside it, wakes up inside it, presses olive oil inside it, pours wine inside it, raises families inside it. That is either the most stubborn thing a civilization can do or the most honest, perhaps both. What these 5 places share is not architecture, not age, not even beauty. What they share is refusal. The refusal to become ruins. The refusal to be forgotten. The refusal to let the weight of centuries crush the people still living beneath those walls. Every castle on this list was built for war. None of them ended there. They became something their builders never imagined. Homes, hotels, wineries, olive oil empires, places where people fall in love and get married and wake up on Christmas morning inside walls that have survived everything. If that is not a reason to keep traveling, to keep looking up at the ridge and wondering what is behind those walls, then nothing is. If this journey meant something to you, leave a comment below. Tell us which castle stayed with you longest. Subscribe if you want to keep going. There are more walls out there, more centuries waiting. We are just getting started. And thank you for watching, for staying until the end, for caring about places that most of the world has already forgotten. That matters more than you know.